What unfolds when the individual who possesses 15 stores enters one of them incognito, with no one recognizing him as the owner? Brayden Dorsey had never envisioned himself at the helm of the company. He constructed it meticulously, piece by piece, warehouse by warehouse, store by store. Following the unexpected passing of his father 2 years prior, Brayden came into possession of all that was left behind. He sustained the company, grew it, and updated the systems. However, recently, there was an unsettling feeling that lingered. The online reviews for store number 9, one of their busiest distribution hubs, have significantly declined over the past 3 months. Deliveries were delayed, stock levels were inaccurate, and 2 employees from the warehouse resigned within the same week. The district manager attributed the issues to the perceived laziness of the younger staff and the ongoing staffing crisis. Brayden was skeptical. Brayden expressed his desire to avoid another report to his assistant. "I wish to witness it firsthand." He had yet to encounter the crew at Store 9. The majority of hires were facilitated by a third-party recruiter, and the manager Shannon had been in her position for just 6 months, flawless disguise. He removed his beard, darkened his hair, and donned thick-rimmed glasses. He slipped into a worn hoodie and laced up his steel-toed boots. To everyone around, he was simply Ben Dawson, a fresh face in the stockroom, just starting his journey. He even went so far as to create a counterfeit ID badge. He stepped into the warehouse as the first light of dawn began to break. The atmosphere was filled with noise, a chill in the air, and the distinct sense of cardboard mingling with coffee. "Are you the new guy?" a tall young woman asked, her voice flat. "Indeed." "Ben," he said, extending his hand. She refrained from shaking it. "Zariah Clifton, come along with me." Zariah darted forward with remarkable speed. She detailed the scanner system, pointed out the location for the incoming pallets, and passed him a roll of stickers. "Let's skip the pleasantries and focus on the task at hand." By noon, Brayden felt a sharp ache in his back. It had been years since he engaged in such physical toil. He made some errors with the codes and accidentally let a box of cleaning supplies fall. Zariah spoke plainly, without raising her voice, yet her words were far from gentle. "Your scanning technique needs adjustment. Otherwise, the entire count will be disrupted. Believe me, having Shannon on your case is not something you desire." Brayden inquired about Shannon, the manager. Zariah inclined her head and softened her tone. "She's a force to be reckoned with. What do you mean?" She paused, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. "Simply keep the conversation brief. Focus on your tasks and maintain a low profile." In the break room, Brayden positioned himself close to the vending machine, observing quietly. The atmosphere was tense, devoid of humor or ease. A young man named Louis sat quietly, his gaze fixed downward, hardly grazing his sandwich. A fellow worker, a petite man adorned with tattoos named Marcus, leaned in and murmured something to him. "I'm not saying anything again," Louis muttered. "Last time I spoke out of turn, Shannon summoned me to the office and warned that if I continued to be reckless, I would be replaced." Brayden felt a knot form in his stomach. He observed as Zariah entered, took a protein bar and exited silently. Following the break, Brayden collaborated closely with her once more. "Hey," he spoke softly. "I overheard Louis mention something in the break room earlier regarding Shannon. Is she intimidating others?" Zariah hesitated before responding. She cast a quick look around before leaning in closer. "Listen, I'm not sure who you are or what your intentions are, but if you wish to maintain your position here, it would be wise to refrain from asking questions. If Shannon discovers you're speaking, she'll ensure your silence." Brayden's eyes fluttered open. "She is unable to do that. She is capable. She possesses." Last month, Marcus attempted to report a safety concern. He was assigned to the night shift the following day without any explanation. "He has a child, you know. He was no longer able to pick her up from daycare." Brayden sensed a clenching in his jaw. He gazed across the warehouse where Shannon lingered by the loading dock, arms folded, engaged in conversation with a man in a suit. It seems that the district manager, Zariah, continued her efforts. "If you wish to contribute, please fulfill your responsibilities. Ensure no one else suffers harm." That evening, Brayden lingered in his car, gazing at the warehouse through the glass of the windshield. He had believed the issue stemmed from unmotivated staff. What he discovered was trepidation, and he was merely beginning. Brayden arrived the following morning before the lights had even flickered to life. The parking lot was almost devoid of vehicles. He was curious to discover who was truly behind the opening of the establishment. The heavy steel delivery door groaned as it swung open at 5:52. Marcus, the inked employee from the break room, strolled in with a coffee in one hand and keys in the other. Brayden paused momentarily to unlock the side entrance, then stepped inside, trailing behind him. "You're early," Marcus remarked, his gaze fixed elsewhere. "Rest eluded me," Brayden responded. "I decided to tackle the backlog ahead of time." Marcus gave a single nod before retrieving a clipboard from the wall. He glanced at the sheet and muttered softly to himself. Brayden grasped two words, yet they remained brief. Brayden inquired about who would not be attending, the same two temporary workers who left last week. They were meant to be substituted. Looks like no one turned up once more. Marcus appeared unfazed. He maneuvered a rolling cart over the concrete floor, the wheels protesting with a high-pitched squeal under the uneven load. Brayden trailed behind, feigning indifference to the way the guy repeatedly stretched his shoulder every few minutes. "Are you okay?" Brayden inquired. Marcus paused, uncertainty flickering in his mind. "Aged tear from several months ago. I never truly found the time to mend." Without workers' comp, Marcus regarded him as if he were foolish. "Do you honestly believe they'd allow me to take some time off? Shannon blamed me for lifting incorrectly and warned that if I took more than 2 days, she'd let me go." Brayden tightened his jaw, remaining silent. By 7, the warehouse was alive with activity once more. Forklifts emitted their beeping sounds, scanners let out cheerful chirps, and the atmosphere resonated with the dull thud of pallets making contact with the ground. Brayden found himself once more in the inbound section, just like the day before, yet this time he had company. A newcomer named Theo arrived, slender, pale, and just on the cusp of adulthood, fresh from high school. He appeared as though he hadn't had a proper meal in days. His hands quivered ever so slightly as he unwrapped the shrink wrap from a pile of boxes. Brayden inquired, "You knew as well, didn't you?" Theo gave a slight nod. "On the second day you received training," and he appeared perplexed. "Zaria demonstrated the scanner to me yesterday, yet no one else seemed to comment on it." Brayden cast a quick look at the pile of boxes marked with the wrong SKU and the wrong destination. Theo was perusing them regardless. "Wait a moment. These are designated for store 15, not 9. Theo stood still, caught in a moment of disbelief. I believed this was the correct stack. Brayden moved in closer. At times, they combine pallets. "We need to verify everything before proceeding with the scan." Theo's complexion drained of color. "I've already scanned about 20. All right, we'll take care of it. However, let's hold off on scanning anything else until we have certainty." "All right," Theo nodded, his expression suggesting he was on the verge of losing his lunch. A short while later, Shannon marched over with determination. "What on earth is happening here?" She broke. Brayden lifted a hand just a bit, just spotted a miscalculation. It was a genuine error. Shannon's gaze fixed intently on Theo. "Excuse me, may I ask your name?" "Theo," he murmured almost inaudibly. "You've been here less than a week, and you're already messing up the inventory counts," she snapped. "Are you truly aware of your actions?" Theo cast his gaze downward. I believed it was the correct stack. Your assumption was incorrect. That error resulted in a significant loss of man-hours for rerouting and caused delays for our customers," she stated. "To maintain your position, it's essential to focus and be attentive." Brayden advanced with purpose. He didn't receive the proper training. "He's not the issue," Shannon's gaze sharpened. "Is it Ben? So you've been here for 2 days now?" "No. One has appointed you as a spokesperson. I'm simply pointing out that if the process isn't demonstrated," she interrupted him. "Your opinion wasn't requested. To maintain your position, it's best to steer clear of matters that don't pertain to you." She pivoted abruptly and strode away. Theo appeared as if he longed to find a small, cozy space to retreat and vanish from sight. Brayden knelt beside him. "Are you all right?" Theo nodded, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. He swiftly cleared them away and pivoted back to the scanner. The remainder of the day unfolded at a languid pace. Brayden took note of the absent safety gloves, the broken stepladder, and the forklift with a faulty brake that Marcus had to kick in manually. It felt as though no one was paying attention. No reports were made. No one wished to find themselves in Shannon's sights. At around 3, Zaria discreetly led Brayden to a secluded spot behind a pile of sealed boxes. She expressed her frustration, saying, "You upset her," I observed. "She'll definitely seek a way to remove you if you embarrass her once more." Brayden folded his arms across his chest. "What is the duration of this situation?" Zaria surveyed her surroundings, ever since she assumed control. Prior to that, it wasn't flawless, yet individuals sensed they had the freedom to voice their thoughts. At this moment, it feels as if everyone is treading carefully, as if the ground beneath them is fragile and precarious. "Why remain?" he inquired. She let out a breath through her nostrils. "I'm not going to let her push me away, and since some of these individuals lack anyone else to support them." In a manner reminiscent of Marcus, she gave a nod, and Lewis. "And now it seems we have Theo." They slipped away unnoticed, yet Brayden's thoughts were in a whirlwind. He required deeper insights. He sought evidence. As fate would have it, an opportunity presented itself at 4:30. As Louis swept near the back office hallway, his dustpan slipped from his grasp and fell to the floor. As he leaned down to retrieve it, the office door swung open, revealing Shannon, who emerged with a clipboard and a tablet in hand. She failed to notice him. She was engaged in a voice call with someone. She mentioned that she informed corporate the headcount was adequate. "If I submit another request, they'll begin to inquire." "No, I'll just push the current team a bit more. They will handle it." She pivoted and caught sight of Louis. Her expression shifted in an instant. "Return to your tasks," she commanded. He gave a slight nod and proceeded in silence. 15 minutes later, Brayden made his way to him in the break room. I listened to her words. Louis gazed at him, taken aback. Brayden inclined closer. "She has been deceiving corporate, claiming we have sufficient staff when we clearly do not. That's why you're all feeling the pressure." Louis's lips pressed together. "That information is not for your ears. I certainly did." "You didn't," Louis reiterated. "For if you were to speak up, she would twist it against you, as she always does." Brayden hesitated. "May I pose a question to you? If a representative from corporate were to enter this space tomorrow and inquire about the true experience here, would you be willing to share your thoughts?" Louis's jaw tightened. "Only if I was certain that something would truly transform." That evening, Brayden returned to his vehicle and unlocked his phone. He composed a note to his assistant, requesting copies of Store 9's staffing reports from the past 4 months. "Please also obtain HR logs pertaining to complaints from this location. Please refrain from bringing it to the attention of the district team." He pressed the send button, then gazed intently at the warehouse. They were more than just short-staffed. They found themselves ensnared in a web of deceit, manipulated and driven to their limits by an individual who wielded fear as a tool of control. He decided he wouldn't allow it to linger for another week. Tomorrow he would intensify his efforts, and if Shannon resisted, he would be prepared. As Brayden entered Store 9 for the 3rd time that morning, he sensed a weight in the air that seemed to linger. Yesterday's silence had thickened into a fragile stillness, one that splintered at the slightest pressure. As he stepped into the back hallway, he caught sight of Theo, who remained engrossed in his task, folding empty boxes at a wobbly table that trembled with each motion. Brayden remained silent. He no longer required it. He had witnessed and listened to more than enough. Today was not focused on observation. It involved examining the pressure points, observing who yielded, who flexed, and who remained steadfast. He made his way directly to the inventory cage by receiving, where Zaria was busy placing returns into wire bins. Without a word, she flung a plastic-wrapped sweater onto the heap and continued on her way. "Do you even sleep?" Brayden asked. She removed her gloves. "This morning. I had to drive my brother to school after missing the early bus, so I jogged part of the way here." Brayden pondered that. "Are you doing okay?" Zaria glanced up. "Negative, but how is that relevant to the matter at hand?" He remained silent. He made his way to the back aisle, where Marcus struggled to maneuver a pallet jack with a broken wheel. Brayden took hold of the opposite side. "Where's the maintenance tag?" he inquired. Last week, Shannon removed it, stated it remained functional. The jack's front wheel clung stubbornly to the ground, as if it were stuck in place. With each step they took, a ripple of energy coursed through Brayden's arms. She understands that it remains ineffective. She is aware, indifferent. They successfully maneuvered the pallet into position, and then Brayden took a step back, wiping his hands on his pants. He noticed Marcus flinch once more, massaging his shoulder. Despite the struggle, Marcus offered a brief nod. "I have a doctor's note stored in my glove box. It was never submitted. Why not indeed? She would simply alter my shift once more or reduce my hours. I already missed out on overtime last week." Brayden remained silent. There was no necessity for him to do so. What he needed was a moment to clear the line crossed, something undeniable. It arrived at 10:45. Shannon burst onto the floor, clipboard clutched tightly, her lips pressed together as if she were biting down on something sharp. She gestured toward the staging area. "Who arranged those outbounds?" she exclaimed. No one responded. She gestured once more. "The boxes are askew. This poses a safety concern. Who was responsible for this?" Theo paused for a moment, then gradually lifted his hand. "I believed I had them all lined up correctly. I attempted to align the edge lines." She strode purposefully forward. "Your effort was evident. Your effort was noted. Do you really believe that customers are concerned about your efforts? You desire for someone to suffer, so you can claim you made an effort." Brayden advanced from the opposite side of the aisle. "That will suffice." She pivoted. "Pardon me. Your argument is clear. Advance. Forward." Her gaze sharpened. "Don't instruct me on how to handle my space." He remained unyielding. "And you shouldn't belittle someone who is trying their hardest." She moved closer to him. "Are you looking to be included in the narrative as well, Ben?" Behind her, Theo had already turned away, his gaze glued to the ground. Zarya paused in her stride, a box perched on her shoulder. Even Lewis lifted his gaze from the labeling station. Brayden remained still. "Your actions are fostering an unwelcoming atmosphere." Shannon's voice turned icy now. "Your understanding seems to be lacking." "Do I not?" He delved into his back pocket and retrieved his wallet. He discreetly revealed his genuine ID from within. "Brayden Dorsey," he stated with a composed demeanor. "Founder and Chief Executive Officer." The quiet didn't come right away. It crept in gradually, reminiscent of a gentle tide. Shannon's eyes fluttered open and shut. Her lips parted ever so slightly, yet silence lingered in the air. Then she withdrew. "Oh, I wasn't informed that you would be arriving. They were not meant to." He faced the team. "Each individual present has been enduring circumstances that I would never accept for even a day in any other establishment. You've faced excessive demands, insufficient backing, and a lack of voice." His voice remained calm, yet the sharpness was unmistakable now. "And that concludes at this very moment." He glanced over his shoulder at Shannon. "You have persistently troubled your employees, overlooked safety breaches and misrepresented staffing numbers to evade examination. You've taken action against those who have voiced their concerns. That is not merely unethical, it warrants immediate dismissal." Her cheeks flushed with color. "It's unacceptable to stroll in here under false pretenses, and I certainly don't require your consent to uncover the reality." 2 security personnel from the corporate office, alerted earlier that morning by Brayden's assistant, entered the loading dock. Brayden acknowledged them with a nod. "Shannon, it's time for you to exit the premises, in effect, right away." She fixed him with a lingering gaze, then pivoted abruptly and marched toward the office. The security personnel trailed behind, maintaining a respectful distance. She moved forward without a glance behind her. As the sound of her heels diminished, silence enveloped the room. Not immediately. Then Marcus exhaled. Good grief. Brayden faced the team. "I'm not here to take on the role of a savior. I ought to have realized what was unfolding months back. I take full responsibility for that. However, we are beginning to address it from today onward." He motioned toward the rear corridor. A conference room is currently being prepared in collaboration with HR. One by one, each of you will have the opportunity to share your thoughts in a personal setting. No notes recorded, nothing appended to. Your account, only the unvarnished truth. Zariah finally found her voice. So what comes next? Brayden locked his gaze with hers. We reconstruct appropriate staffing, revamped tools, and fresh guidance. A person who genuinely pays attention. With a single nod, she redirected her focus to the task at hand. Yet her stance had changed, no longer prepared for collision. Theo lingered by the wall, still and silent. Brayden strolled over. Are you okay? Theo gave a slow, deliberate nod. I never expected anyone to take action. You are worthy of more, everyone does. Theo cast his gaze downward before lifting it upward. Am I still let go? Brayden gave a slight shake of his head. You were never let go. He observed the young man breathe out and depart, this time with a touch more confidence in his stride. Brayden remained on the floor for the entirety of the day, neither as a leader nor in disguise, simply there. By 4 o'clock, an HR representative had already conducted 7 interviews. Several safety concerns were confirmed. One of the forklifts was designated as out of service. A temporary supervisor was brought in from another location. Marcus had been officially scheduled for a medical reassessment, with full back pay for missed overtime awaiting review. As the day came to a close and employees began to make their way out, Brayden lingered near the exit. Louis halted briefly as he walked by. I suppose I should apologize to you. What for? For believing that those in power never truly cared. Brayden offered a fleeting, weary smile. There are moments when we may not, but we are certainly going to. Do so now. Louis acknowledged with a nod and ventured out into the dimming twilight. In the stillness of the night, Brayden lingered for a few moments, observing the warehouse as it settled into silence. The silence had lost its fragility. It now carried a different essence, a sense of relief. 3 weeks later, Brayden found himself seated on the warehouse floor of Store 9, clipboard in hand, observing as the early shift began to establish their new rhythm. The fluorescent lights hummed softly above, throwing faint shadows on the concrete, yet the palpable tension that once lingered in the corners of this space had dissipated. What remained was labor that was still challenging, still demanding, but no longer drenched in apprehension. He had dedicated every Monday and Thursday to this space since the unveiling, not confined to an office, but standing side by side with those who ensured the operation thrived. Few executives would be able to recount the exact seconds it took to log a winter coat into inventory, or the weight of the roll carts when the humidity set in. Brayden was now able to. Zaria strolled by him, pulling a cart brimming with unbound boxes. She paused at the sight of him. Are you finally going to allow someone else to take charge of that clipboard? She inquired. Brayden offered a smile, his gaze fixed elsewhere. Only. When I witness a shift commencing punctually and free of any equipment problems, will I be satisfied? She arched an eyebrow. You'll be keeping that until next winter. He placed the clipboard on the shelf next to him and rose to his feet. Do you have a moment? She nodded in response. They moved aside by the ancient returns cage, which now contained only sealed, labeled bins. Everything is in perfect condition, with no improvised solutions or outdated items in sight. He mentioned that he is seeking an individual who can take on a leadership position, not limited to Store 9. I aim to assemble a team that can discreetly and directly assess real conditions across all locations. You would be included in that. Zaria folded her arms, not as an act of rebellion, but as a moment of reflection. Are you asking me to gather information on the other stores? I want you to continue your important work of advocating for those who often go unheard, but this time with support behind you. She hesitated before responding. There are moments when I find myself still on the floor. Certainly, that is precisely the point. You would report directly to me without any intermediaries, she acknowledged with a slow nod. Absolutely. I'm intrigued. He reached out his hand. This time she seized it. Before she went back to her station, she remarked, Marcus believes you'll lose interest and cease coming around. Brayden dismissed the notion with a shake of his head. Unlikely. As they conversed, Louis strolled by, clutching a clipboard of his own. He was assisting in the training of 2 new temporary employees, both set for evaluation after a week. this time with thorough onboarding, safety orientation, and well-defined expectations. The HR interviews uncovered issues that extended beyond mere management misconduct. A persistent trend of inadequate follow-through at the regional level was revealed. Requests for staffing, equipment repairs, and schedule adjustments were often met with delays or neglect. Brayden didn't merely take Shannon's place. He completely overhauled the entire reporting framework. Now each store had a direct connection to a newly established operations liaison, completely circumventing the previous district management layer. Within the confines of the break room, the vending machine had vanished. A small kitchenette occupied the space, featuring a functional microwave, a filtered water station, and a whiteboard that displayed shift changes, safety updates, and birthdays. Theo stood next to it, perusing the newly posted training schedule for the upcoming week. He flinched a bit as Brayden walked in. "Didn't notice you," Theo remarked, adjusting to the new arrangement. "Indeed, it's an improved variation." Brayden remarked on your unwavering consistency. "Your supervisor mentioned that you have maintained a perfect record with your scans for more than a week now." Theo cast his gaze downward, evidently uncertain about how to respond to the compliment. Brayden lingered in anticipation. "I never expected to make it this far," Theo confessed. "I found myself in a state of anticipation, hoping someone would finally say I was unnecessary." Theo nodded, acknowledging that you were always essential, though lacking the necessary support. "I'll be here if that's acceptable." "Indeed," Brayden remarked. Later that afternoon, Brayden had a private meeting with Marcus in the newly designated worker feedback room, which had once been Shannon's office. The space, now devoid of its blinds, featured 2 chairs, a desk, and a lockable suggestion box. "Did you have a conversation with your doctor?" Brayden inquired. "Indeed. They've advised me to stay away from lifting for at least another 3 weeks. Brayden mentioned that you'll be on modified duty. There will be no deduction from your salary. We will guide you through systems checks and logistics tracking. So you have some experience in that area, correct?" Marcus gave a slight nod, reflecting on my initial experience in the warehouse prior to this location. "Excellent. I will arrange for a representative from corporate to observe your work next week. We are developing a program focused on injury prevention, and your assistance in crafting it will be invaluable." Marcus opened his eyes wide. "Are you certain you want me to take that on? Your contributions have been instrumental in uncovering many of the risks present here. That's precisely the person I desire." As Marcus exited the room, Brayden lingered for a moment, his gaze locked onto the box nestled in the corner. It already contained 3 folded forms, each one identifiable. The afternoon shift commenced its arrival outside. A handful acknowledged, him with subtle nods or soft greetings. No one glanced back. The sound of the office door went unnoticed by everyone. At 5, Brayden encountered the temp agency representative in the loading yard. She was examining the updated criteria for the site, which included essential minimum training hours, weekly performance evaluations, and immediate feedback from floor leads rather than off-site recruiters. She expressed confidence that we can meet those. "However, you are the sole client requesting this degree of detail." Brayden remained unfazed. "In that case, I'm perfectly content being the sole one." As the sun sank beneath the horizon, he circled the warehouse for the final time. The exterior. Lights illuminated instantly. The loading dock exuded a sense of order, with its pristine cleanliness and tranquil atmosphere. He spotted Zarire once more by the receiving dock, meticulously examining the incoming freight alongside a new employee. "Are you still around?" she inquired, simply needed to witness it firsthand. She refrained from inquiring about his meaning. She merely nodded and went back to the scanner. Brayden remained motionless for a few more seconds, observing the seamless flow of labor, devoid of disorder, devoid of raised voices, devoid of apprehension. He then pivoted and made his way to the side exit, where he faced no obstacles and none were necessary. Behind him, the warehouse continued its motion, not flawless, but at last it felt just right.